To understand coronavirus hysteria, you must first understand the geopolitical context in which the event is happening, and it's all about China and Israel. But first, some background.
People were thinking about how genetic engineering may be used for hostile purposes. You could engineer microbes so that in fact you could make them nastier or persist longer in the environment, and so you could theoretically develop better biological weapons.
But wonderful weapons these are. They won't destroy any property. They'll just kill everybody.
Once unleashed, germ warfare would never be contained. The bioweapons technology created during the Cold War has since spread around the world. The biological arms race began in secret at the height of World War II. In 1942, Japanese bombers dropped plague-ridden fleas on Chinese villages, killing thousands. That same year in Britain, Winston Churchill ordered British defense scientists to develop anthrax bombs to drop on Germany. This recently declassified film shows for the first time the devastating potential of the British trials.
Sheep were used for the trials because they're particularly sensitive to inhaled anthrax. The bomb's fired, and the wind carries the cloud towards the line of animals and impingers.
The tests showed that anthrax was a more deadly weapon than ever imagined. Churchill placed an urgent order for 1 million anthrax bomblets. But before they could be produced, World War II came to an end. Now the world was on the brink of a new kind of war. At Vector, Popov and his team were genetically creating the new strain of smallpox.
Technically, there was no difficulty in making smallpox almost 100% lethal. In contrast to 30% virulence of wild-type smallpox. So it would be an ultimate weapon much more dangerous than anybody could imagine, because even if some of the infected people recover from the first wave of disease, they would almost inevitably die in the second wave of neurological symptoms, paralysis and death. So it was a very scary weapon.
And we were looking at delivery systems not only through high-performance aircraft, but we were also looking at missile delivery.
In an experiment to see how susceptible a large population would be to biological attack, scientists released supposedly harmless bacteria used to simulate biological agents over American cities.
One of the early tests that we did was at San Francisco. We sprayed Bacillus subtilis from a naval vessel and had the wind move that aerosol across the downtown San Francisco. It showed quite dramatically how vulnerable we were to biological warfare.
Years later, these tests would be implicated in several mystery illnesses and one death. The US government denied the accusations.
Let's talk China and Israel. We are seeing the shutting down of the US economy and strict population movement control measures as described in part 6 of this excellent video shown here. 5-minute extract. Watch. This video was released on January 5th, 2020, just before the unfolding events we see today. Problems all around the world, economically driving worldwide rates down, except the US dollar. China trade deal emerges for Trump 2020 run-in, end Q1 perhaps. Fed starts talking rates up, flooding global investors into the US dollar yield. Mid-June 2020, a security event leads to a global tightening of population movement and a dissident roundup. Early August, catastrophic event or a series of running events takes out West Coast, all those nuclear reactors built on that fault line. Whatever, use your imagination, alien space monkeys. Collapse in confidence in the US dollar leads to futures market spike and hoarding. World trade dislocation. Physical shortage of produce, even water. Not to worry, Israel has all the technology required to rectify the situation. IMF steps in with global solution, the ESDR-DLT, or Electronic Sovereign Drawing Rights Distributed Ledger Technology, replaces the US Treasury system. This includes Bitcoin. Bitcoin mandatory pre-dollar collapse value purchase order or confiscation. Though still valuable, it's not going to be used in the world to come. Global rates everywhere go deep negative, wipes out what little middle class is left. Universal credit launched, global taxation to save the planet.
How dare you!
Age of communitarianism begins. UN Habitat Smart Cities program designed in Israel and most likely manufactured in China. Agenda 21 is born in 2021. Don't want to do any of this? Still dreaming of freedom from the banksters in your anarcho-syndicalist workers' commune paradise with a picture of Julian Assange, Noam Chomsky and Edward Snowden on the wall? Watch too many John McAfee crypto freedom videos? Then your backdoored phone, wallet, desktop, laptop, or the exchange where you deposited your treasure will be hacked and taken one way or the other. Ever wonder about the endless mass hacking and theft of hundreds of millions in crypto? No one is ever caught, and no one seems to know how they do it. I know how they do it. Anonymity gonna save you? Tor gonna save you? No, every bit of hardware in your electronic device is serial numbered and tied to you one way or the other. You can thank Intel Israel for the backdoors and Taiwan Semiconductor if you use AMD or Qualcomm Snapdragon in your phone or Apple's A12. China is making its own phone CPUs and operating system now, as well as server CPUs. Thank you, Israel. Microsoft Israel will assist on Windows machines, of course. Intel's deeply embedded core, or DEC, running its own independent Linux-based operating system gives the people that matter the full access they need. Ask Christopher Domas and God Mode unlocked. All hardware is backdoored in this manner. All these newfangled robots and drones will pour out to clean up any Americans still in love with their firearms. Hint hint, your Barrett 50 will not save you. Welcome to the jungle. We are in the age of the currency reset and roll over into the Swiss Bank of International Settlements, Electronic Sovereign Drawing Rights, Distributed Ledger Technology, Crypto Token, soon to replace the US Federal Reserve and US dollar hegemony. Before this ESDR-DLT token can be used effectively to manage the new planetary-wide electronic crypto system, all the world's currencies must be brought to parity. That means no US domination of the planet, or more precisely, no more Zionist-controlled domination of the planet via the US. That has moved on to the new sub-offices, and Rothschild and the City of London East India Trading Company, three bastard sons, Benjamin Netanyahu, Vladimir Putin, and Xi Jinping. If you want to know more, consult Alexander Dugin, briefer of the Russian General Staff, whose father was a GRU general, or Russian military intelligence general. He's been writing books since the mid-1990s on how to bring down the United States using Soviet-era active measures, asymmetrical small-scale, kinetic and large-scale propaganda warfare. I refer you to KGB defector Yuri Bezmenov for the details on how that works. Now that Israel, Russia and China are fully in bed together on the Belt and Road development, it all becomes clear why the administration of Donald Trump is pulling out of the Middle East. Well, the pullout was stalled as the US military and intelligence community grappled with the Israeli-first rats in the Pentagon and the US State Department. It seemed they were winning, but now we have Corona and President Trump, who at first mocked Corona for what it was.
People die from the flu, and this is very unusual. And it is a little bit different, but in some ways it's easier, and in some ways it's a little bit tougher. But we have it so well under control. I mean, view this the same as the flu. When somebody sneezes, I mean, I try and bail out as much as possible. It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. It could maybe go away. We'll see what happens. Nobody really knows. The fact is, the greatest experts, I've spoken to them all, nobody really knows.
But he soon came around after the White House mole Jared Kushner got his orders from President of the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu. And we can speculate on the true role of Corona Mark I and possibly deadly follow-ups after we have read this damning article from October 2016, Bunting's Map in Israel and China's New Silk Road. Understand this article and you will understand the grand chessboard context in which all is currently unfolding. We'll talk more about Corona after this article. Bunting's Map in Israel on China's New Silk Road, an article from October the 15, 2016. Yosef Berdansky, an Israeli-American political scientist and senior editor of GIS Defense and Foreign Affairs Daily, wrote an insightful article in the September issue regarding the convergence of China's Afro-Eurasian integration project and Bunting's map of the world as a cloverleaf. Heinrich Bunting was a German Protestant pastor, theologist and cartographer, and in his masterpiece, Itinerarium Sacrae Scripturae, Travel Through Holy Scripture, in 1581, he portrayed the world that mattered was comprised of the three continents of Europe, Asia and Africa, with each depicted as a cloverleaf. They converged in Jerusalem, and the rest of the world was irrelevant. In his article entitled The History of What's Next, Berdansky argued that the Bunting map is likely the best depiction of the unfolding global geopolitical architecture of the 21st century. With the demise of the Arab modern state and Sykes-Picot post-Arab Spring, Libya, Iraq, Syria and Lebanon are no more, and Jordan and Yemen are not far behind. Instead, what is arising is the merging of the Greater Middle East and the greater framework of the reawakened Mackinderan world order, and the cloverleaf world centered on Jerusalem is converging with China's One Belt, One Road project. Israel is keynote on China's New Silk Road, with the rise of Salafi jihadism in the Middle East increasingly threatening China's overseas citizens and assets, especially to their maritime trade via the Suez Canal. Israel is emerging as a strategic node on China's southern corridor on the New Silk Road. As the world's largest trading nation and with over 95% of global trade still being seaborne, Beijing is heavily dependent on the canal to reach its largest export market in Europe, with trade volume at 521 billion euros in 2015. Geography matters, and the Middle East is also where China imports more than half of its crude oil. However, the presence of ISIS, Al-Qaeda and other Islamic extremist groups in the Sinai are threatening China's maritime trade. As such, China is building a, quote, steel canal of the Med-Red Railway through Israel to connect the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea that bypasses the Suez. This was especially prompted by an incident in 2013 when Al-Furqan Brigade, an Al-Qaeda affiliate, attacked China's COSCO container ship by firing rocket-propelled grenades while it was in the Suez Canal en route to northern Europe. With increased military activity and ship inspections in the Suez, maritime insurance company Lloyd's List recommended that ships take the 6,000-mile longer route around the Cape of Good Hope, essentially around the entire African continent. These shipping delays and risk premiums are costly for China, Although Beijing is building overland networks of railways and highways as part of the planned Silk Road economic belt across Eurasia, these routes are a diversification, not replacement, of important maritime transport corridors. Israel as a regional power. Israel as a regional power. Israel as a regional power. Israel as a regional power.
And what it is basically the meeting ground between big data, IT, and connectivity. Everything is being driven from this nexus. Everything. Big data, AI, and connectivity is allowing small countries to be big countries. Because the intersection of big data, connectivity, and artificial intelligence, and what it does in robotics and genetics and all the other fields, Uli, that you mentioned, everything, that is changing our world in rapid succession. And the future belongs to those who can seize this change. We are positioned right at the cusp of this change, right at the center of this change. We can take it, and we are. It's changing us. It's giving us powers and prowess that we never had before. It's giving us powers and prowess that we never had before. But we're in a position now to compensate beyond anything that we dreamed of. And cyber is a real domain of power. And cyber is a real domain of power. Israel now is a cyber power, it's a water power, it's a solar power, it's an agricultural power, it's a milk power. Can you imagine? This makes Israel very powerful. This makes Israel very powerful. This makes Israel very powerful. It's giving us powers and prowess that we never had before. It's giving us powers and prowess that we never had before. But we're in a position now to compensate beyond anything that we dreamed of. But we're in a position now to compensate beyond anything that we dreamed of. And the future belongs to those who can seize this change. And the future belongs to those who can seize this change. We are positioned right at the cusp of this change, right at the center of this change. We are positioned right at the cusp of this change, right at the center of this change. We can take it, and we are. It's changing us. We can take it, and we are. It's changing us. And cyber is a real domain of power. Cyber is a real domain of power. Perhaps you can understand
Israel as a regional power. Thus, the rise of Israel as a key node in China's Silk Road grand strategy not only elevates Jerusalem in China's strategic calculus, but as Jean-Michel Valentin of the Red Team Analysis Society argued, also presents a new status of Israel from a, quote, protected power of the US to a, quote, integrated regional power. In its own right, transforming Israel's traditional narrative of seeking protectors to one of seeking partners. The emergence of Israel as a Mediterranean energy player, its continued stability and robust military power in a neighborhood of unstable and weakening Arab states, and outreach to the Eastern Hemisphere by joining Turkey and Egypt in their applications to the China-led Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is thus slowly creating a new regional and international system of shared interests between Mideast countries and the Middle Kingdom. Nonetheless, Syria remains a thorny issue between Israel and China, as well as with Russia and India due to Jerusalem's support for the opposition that consists of jihadists from these countries. The August 30 terrorist attack on China's embassy in Kyrgyzstan by Turkestan Islamic Party. In Idlib, Syria, financed by the rebranded al-Nusra Jabhat Fatah al-Sham and coordinated from Turkey, demonstrates how terrorist haven in Syria is increasingly threatening China's energy, maritime, and human security. with Russia, China and India now increasing support for the Syrian government that is helping them fight Eurasian militants in the army of conquest, while Israel understandably sides with Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Qatar to back them. This risks misunderstanding and miscalculation between Jerusalem and rising Eurasian powers. As such, it is important for Israel to establish a cooperative platform for deconfliction and crisis management with China regarding Syria, as it has done with Russia, especially now that Chinese military advisors are on the ground and will likely increase its footprint with the recent military agreement with Damascus. If Israel could balance its status as a traditional protectorate of Uncle Sam and its emerging trajectory as a, quote, regional power, with additional partners and take stock not only of US interests, but also legitimate interests of new Mideast actors such as China and Russia, it could help manage the transition and maintain relative stability as the greater Middle East continues to converge with China's Afro-Eurasian integration project, and along with this, perhaps a resurrection of Bunting's cloverleaf world and a return to history. Now you understand the central role of Israel in the Belt and Road project. China is not leading this, Israel is. Israel is supplying China the technology. China could not innovate a toilet seat without first studying in the US or having it handed to them by Israel. China is not a technology innovator, it's a slave labour camp of traumatised, collective sociopaths suffering deep anxiety issues, able to regurgitate large amounts of data on command. No offence to beautiful Chinese people all over the world, some of which I call my friends, but they don't live and work in China. They'll tell you all about it. Now you might understand why Iranian General Soleimani was assassinated, a man who hates both Russia and China. The story that he was heading to a meeting with Saudi officials in Iraq makes sense as he realised Iran was being used to smash pan-Arab nationalism and resistance to the expansion of Israel's borders. His takeout was the precursor to coronavirus and the propping up of the Swiss and German banker-approved Davos doughboys Rouhani and Zarif. If you watch my channel, and you must, you will understand the urgent need for the expansion of Israel's borders into the biblically prophesied Greater Israel. If you watch my channel, you will understand Israel's key role as a, quote, cyber technology juggernaut. If you watch my channel, you will understand the central role of Israel as a data collection point for the fiber optic cables that will cross from Europe, North and South Asia, and Africa. And if you watch my channel, you will understand how vital that data is for the future of artificial intelligence and robotics. The Middle East is not a vital geopolitical point for energy anymore. That system is being dismantled right now. The Middle East is a vital point for the new oil, data, real-time data, to feed the AI quantum supercomputer that is going to change everything. Corona Mark 1 is without doubt a giant, unrelenting joke.
Do you agree with Donald Trump's Chief of Staff, Mulvaney, that the coronavirus is the hoax of the day?
The State Department is doing everything it can to protect American citizens around the world.
Do you believe coronavirus is the hoax of the day?
I'm not going to comment on what others say.
I'm just asking you, do you believe the coronavirus is a hoax?
I'm just telling you what the Secretary of State's doing.
Do you believe the coronavirus is a hoax?
We're working to keep people safe.
You can't even answer that question?
Yeah,
it's not even a gotcha question. You believe the coronavirus is a hoax?
It's a gotcha moment. It's not useful.
Is the coronavirus a hoax? Can you just answer that question?
We're taking it seriously. This is
are you serious. At 12:15 today, are you in fact yourself speaking at CPAC? At 12:15 today, are you speaking?
Yes, I am. I'm planning.
All right, so you can only give 2 hours to this bipartisan group of members of Congress, and instead of answering questions on life and death issues from a bipartisan group of America's representatives, you're going to go talk to a special interest group.
Yes.
You, sir, represent all Americans, not a special interest group. It is shameful. You can't even answer basic questions. I yield back.
You serious? You don't know. Everybody knows you never go full retard. You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
I remember the 80s growing up and nuclear war with the Soviet Union and the very real fear I felt. Then came killer bees from South America.
We got bees!
Frightening images from Arizona. The landscaping crew surrounded by bees, hundreds of thousands of them. ABC's Clayton Sandell with the warning tonight.
Then came mad cow disease and SARS. Then the supervolcano in Yellowstone National Park was going to get us all. And then asteroid collisions, which was a good one. Tell me you notice that these endless, carefully crafted narratives designed to keep you passive and in an anxious, non-thinking state. Tell me you get it. These are Hollywood scripts. Fact is, we are 10 years away from a full lockdown. They need robots and drones. Human beings are the key vulnerability in the system, and they are waking up, and they're getting dressed and getting out of the house. Being woke is not enough. You have to leave the house. For God's sake, you've woken up, but you're still in bed.
Hey, are you awake?
Yeah.
I just want you to know I hate you. And so does my dad.
Well, that's fine. Because guess what? I hate you too.
Get dressed, have a healthy breakfast, and get the hell out of the house. Jeremy Rothschild has been on the street for years confronting the American political and business class.
Senator Sanders, the issue of the Jedi cloud, the Pentagon being compromised by Israeli intelligence. Have you looked into that? Do you know that Microsoft is basically...
Excuse me.
Okay, this is a key issue, though. When are we going to talk about this?
We have time, but we can't fix what we can't name. We can't fix what we cannot articulate and plan for. And we cannot fix something if we keep telling ourselves we have no power. We have plenty of power and we have plenty of supporters in all the right places that matter. If you know my story, do you think I would still be alive and kicking if powerful people did not give me a nudge and a wink from the sidelines? They kept telling me, these things are handled quietly, Brendon. Your job is simple. Understand and articulate the subjects just discussed. Israel and the City of London, East India Trading Company and their think tank proxies that are formulating policy in the US. Policy that is designed to make the Middle East safe for Greater Israel and hand the Mackinder World Island to Rothschild's bastard sons, Bibi, Vlad and Xi. We used to call it communism. Now it's being called communitarianism, and you need to understand this ideological twist for the new millennium. Like any old, out-of-date ideology, it has to dress itself up for the new generation. Understand the subversion of the United States and its constitution using manufactured crises. Understand, if we free the United States, we free the world. The bankers are the enemy. The predatory, international, borderless loan sharks. The people who stole $5 trillion from the US economy and paid themselves bonuses back in 2008. Where did that $5 trillion go? Ask the damn question. Where did it go? It didn't disappear. It was transferred. What do you think is paying for the Belt and Road? We need to protect the United States from socio-economic implosion. We need to keep the US military-industrial complex high-tech sector strong. We need to cut off Israel, Russia and China from high technology. High technology that Israel is constantly stealing out of the United States. A technology sector that is being transferred from the US to Israel, just as US manufacturing and heavy industry was transferred to Asia and in particular China. We must bring the supply chain to Mexico, Central and South America. We must return the power to print money or issue crypto to the objective economic data based on transparent government policy. We must protect the allies of the United States from Rothschild's bastard sons. We must create new social policies that encourage and even demand citizen participation in the political decision-making process. We must issue new school curriculums that teach real history. The history of the great conspiratorial banking occult program to enslave the entire planet under a highly complex, tyrannical Big Brother surveillance system. We must instigate policies that limit the speed of technological innovation to take into account human beings, their hopes, their dreams, their right to exist. The freight train rushing towards us of artificial intelligence and robotics must be immediately blunted with firm policy and rational community discussion. And one final thing. Sounds a bit extreme, but I'm being deadly serious. Immediately land 2 Marine divisions in occupied Palestine. Eject all of the Jewish extremist settler movement back to Russia. Disarm the Israeli state and create a secular government with equal representation for Jews, Christians and Muslims. Dismantle the Israeli military-industrial complex and high-technology sector and transport it all back to the United States. Let's cease letting them direct the debate. There are people in high places supporting us. They will act and move quietly according to the public mood, so get moody in all the right ways and in all the right places. Focus your information energies on the United States military, the men and women with the guns and the lawful authority to use them. We have 10 years before we face autonomous killing machines on our streets. Let's get moving.
Change the story, change the lead. It's not a new concept. Change the story, change the lead. It's not a new concept. Like people we touched on, we'll talk more about it.
We can't afford a war.
We're not going to have a war. We're going to have the appearance of a war.
We cannot afford the appearance of a war.
What'll it cost?
But they would find out.
Who's going to find out? The American people.
Exactly.
Who's going to tell them?
Do you agree with Donald Trump's chief of staff, Mulvaney, that the coronavirus is the hoax of the day?
The State Department is doing everything it can to protect American citizens around the world.
Do you believe coronavirus is the hoax of the day?
I'm not going to comment on what others say.
But we can't afford a pandemic. Don't worry. We're not going to have a pandemic. We're going to have the appearance of a pandemic. Oh boy. Is it that simple, wag the dog? Maybe. Whatever the ultimate reality, let's just keep a close eye out for Corona Mark II. Good luck.